The issue of concussion has been in the sporting spotlight for some time, with clubs being urged to adopt stricter guidelines, including longer return to play periods and better processes for dealing with head injuries. Neurologist Rowena Mobbs joins us now. Hi Rowena, thank you for joining us on the ABC News channel today. We've traditionally thought of concussion as kind of a short-term issue, something that you have for a few days and then recover from, but what kinds of longer-term consequences can a bad head knock have?
Well, there can be all sorts of consequences, unfortunately, from single head impacts, be they direct, like Angus had, or an indirect whiplash concussion. I see patients often in my clinic who have had symptoms even 6 or 12 months out from a concussion, and the data would support that there's a significant percentage not only with concussion symptoms, but potential changes on brain scans, on neuroimaging. So we must look at this more carefully, and I'm pleased that Angus has come forward and talked about this, talking about positive progress in terms of this issue and increasing safety for players. And I think that he's a hero both on and off the field for that.
Can some of these impacts of concussion be permanent?
Well, they can be. Some patients end up with permanent lifelong symptoms, this post-concussion symptoms that we see, or potential risk into other degenerative conditions, including chronic traumatic encephalopathy. But I must emphasise that risk is largely due to subconcussion risk, the repeated head injuries that may not have symptoms with them, but were of equal or higher force than a concussion, causing brain injury and risk of CTE. So this issue must be looked at more carefully, and it was nearly a month ago, I think, that the Australian Institute of Sport recommendations for a longer mandated rest period were made, 21 days of recovery time after concussion and 14 days symptom-free. And this is really where the codes need to head. I think if they don't look at that more seriously and quickly, that they're open to all sorts of risk.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about those recommendations, as well as that sort of extended return to play period. What other kinds of interventions do you think would be most useful, particularly in sporting situations?
Well, education is one. They've long called for that in the football professional codes, but we now need to extend to reduction of training-related head injury exposure. So that's actually going to come to the hard decisions of reducing the number of contact training sessions, along with stricter rules around tackling and modifications on tackling where possible. But at the end of the day, training appears to have the highest associated risk of repeated head injury. The games are also of concern as well. But we have to look at an overall subconcussion risk, and that is approximated by the number of years a player plays, and the higher the number of years that you played, the higher your risk of CTE. So this issue is not going to go anywhere, and it's time for the codes to actually be a role model, like Angus is being a role model here today. I think that the AFL need to now step up and show greater and faster change on concussion and subconcussion, preferably naming CTE as a target for reducing head injury in this sport.
Yeah, so there's clearly more that can be done. And this is really devastating news for Angus Brayshaw, but as you've sort of alluded to, a good sign that clubs are taking this issue seriously now.
Yes, there are steps in the right direction. As I said, I don't think they're fast enough. I think there's a long way to go. We've seen the conclusion of the Senate inquiry into repeated concussions in contact sport. And sport has this golden opportunity to show the way to look after one's brain health for life, teach kids what good brain health is, and avoiding head injury, but also the improved vascular risk and other things that can improve their outcome and reduce dementia. So they should, I think, tackle this head on as sports, lead the way, show that you can play safer sport and smart sport. And we need to see the leadership there from the AFL, which so far has been limited.